Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 10 balance changes which I really want to see with any type of update in the next week or so. For me, there's a lot of brawlers that are so overpowered, the likes of Shelly and Cordelius, and then there's a lot of brawlers that really need some love, just like Hank. So, of course, we're going to be starting off with the best brawler in the game, or one of the best brawlers in the game, in Shelly. So, of course, I don't want to completely kill Shelly straight away. You know, back a couple of months ago, she was literally one of the worst brawlers in the game, and she has been for 1 or 2 years now. So it's nice to see her at least get a little bit of love. But let's face it, she's completely broken right now. The fact that she can counter literally everything with that very fast movement speed, it is just too much. So you could either go about this in 2 ways. So it depends on what data they have for brand new players, right? Is a very fast movement speed actually good for new players? We're yet to really find out, right? So we'll see whether they need to change that. But if they want to keep the very fast movement speed, they've got to nerf the clay pigeons. So for me, there has to be some type of nerf with the super charge rate, because so many times as a Shelly, you can just pop your gadget as soon as you spawn in at the beginning of the match, pop like 3 or 4 shots, and then straight away you have your super, which is a big problem. Normally it should take Shelly a long time to get a super. When you have it at the click of a button, it's just way too broken. So let's just change the clay pigeons for now, and of course that won't be affecting the low trophy ranges or the low kind of new players, because of course we still have to wait to unlock that clay pigeons, which might take a while. So next up, hopefully on the nerf list, we have Cordelius. So Cordelius, the brand new brawler in the game. Most of you guys should have experienced how strong he is right now. Probably been available for you guys for a couple of weeks now. He's so insanely strong. So of course, with new brawlers, I like it when they're strong, but not as strong as this brawler right here. So there's probably a few ways that you could nerf him. Of course, I don't want him nerfed to the ground, maybe just one of these nerfs. So the first one has to be with his poison mushroom gadget. The fact that you can just have this gadget and it literally is an Otis super at the click of a button, it's just so broken. I don't really like it, but if they still want to keep it in the game, just maybe make it 0.5 seconds, 1 second. It's just so toxic with a green button, right? I would say 0.5 seconds is probably a healthy nerf, to be honest. And then the biggest issue for me is the super charge rate. So the fact that you can just keep cycling the super over and over again is ridiculous. It takes like 4 shots and a little bit of automatic charging through his trait. Or just the fact that he can have that trait alone is just so dumb to me. He can just cycle so fast. So for me, that has to be the biggest way to nerf it. Moving on to the next brawler that needs to get nerfed, it has to be Crow. So Crow is consistently an S tier brawler. We've seen nerfs to his slow and toxic gadget. We've seen other changes as well. And Crow just seems to always be at the top of the meta. So for me, I would actually like just one change to him. So I don't actually mind Crow too much, even though he has that poison effects, which can be a little bit annoying. I don't really mind him too much in the meta, so just a small nerf with his extra toxic star powers. So the fact that you can actually just shoot someone and then they deal 25% less damage is just so toxic. People are just poisoned up all the time. So for me, I would nerf this to around 20% or 15%, just because it's just so annoying. It's actually one of the most underrated things about Crow. Like I already mentioned, it's got a lot of good things going about him, but I think if you nerf any of his other things like his super charge rate or his damage, he's going to be completely useless. So maybe a small change to his star power might make him so he's a little bit less toxic. So next up, hopefully on the nerf list, we have another S tier brawler, brand new to the meta. We have Squeak. So Squeak recently received a nice buff to his star power chain reaction, which has made it so he deals near enough 2000 damage per attack. It's absolutely insane. So I actually like this change a little bit. Maybe it's a bit too much of a boost, but for now, I actually wouldn't touch it. I think the thing that you need to change about him, which we've been crying for a nerf for so long, but because he's been near the bottom of meta, we've not really spoke about it. It's the residue gadget. For 10 seconds, you can slow the enemy. You can actually show them in the grass. And also you have the fact that the kind of slowing radius doesn't actually isn't represented properly in the game, if you get what I mean. It actually slows you for more than it shows, which is just crazy to me. And again, the fact that it's 10 seconds long, it's just so broken. A click of a button, it basically enables you to get 30 seconds of a control for free throughout the game. So I think literally half this, or maybe like 6 seconds or something, because there's just not another slow in the game which lasts anywhere near this long. So moving on to the final brawler, hopefully on the nerf list, we have Gus. So Gus right now probably isn't the best brawler to use in casual play. If you're just a casual player that's just picked up the game, you know, he's not going to be the most strongest, but when you start reaching the competitive tiers, this brawler is just so versatile and so incredibly strong. So I actually think there's a few reasons as to why he's so good, and the main reason for me has to be his Cookie Popper gadget. So of course it's pretty nice for a brawler like Gus, who doesn't have the DPS, to have a gadget that he can defend himself with. Is pretty good, but for me it just makes him too strong, specifically against the sharpshooters as well, which you can 2-tap and then gadget. Just too good. So for me, you'd either have to remove the knockback, which might just make it useless, or you could just simply nerf the damage a little bit, talking to around 1,000 damage instead of 1,400. Or you could go about changing his super. So for me, it's still pretty crazy how his super can give an ally an extra 4,000 HP. I think that's just too much. Maybe like 3,600. And then you might see Gus a little bit more balanced. So now moving on to the buffs I want to see with the balance changes. Starting off with Hank. And I know straight away in the comments, you guys are probably going to roast me here, because he was probably one of the most broken brawlers I've ever seen because of the bugs. But now he's one of the worst brawlers I've ever seen. All of his changes to him have just made him completely unusable. So I'd like for him to be somewhere in the middle of the pack, pretty balanced. I think the things that killed him the most was the fact that now you can actually see him when he's charging his attack in the bush, and also the fact that you're not healing when charging your attack. I'm not too sure which one they should revert, but for me definitely has to be the healing, like personally, just because whenever I play him now, it just feels like I'm never healing, because you have to charge your attack every single time, every time you're moving, or else you're going to be dealing no damage. So for me, I'd like for them to revert that change. Maybe we might be able to see him at least be usable right now, because he's so bad. So next up on the buff list, we actually have Doug, who's not even in the game right now, but for me personally, I would like to see a bit of love to Doug before he comes out. So I'll probably do a few videos on him just nearer the time he's going to get released. Let me know what you want to see, but for now I think he deserves a buff. So the main reason being is because he's so similar to Jackie, and you know where Jackie is in the meta right now, an F tier brawler, so it's pretty obvious that he's going to be somewhere near the end. Of course his super is going to be pretty good, especially in showdown or just in some scenarios, but his super's actually, like, it has a terrible range. You can't shoot it through walls. I think it's pretty weak, and also the fact that the your ally or yourself actually only comes back to life with 50% health. I think it's not really going to be as broken as people think, and also the main attack just isn't strong. I know you can heal up your teammates for quite a fair amount, but it's not often that all your teammates are in and around the same area. You know, a lot of different maps, pretty much every map really, you're splitting up into your lanes, so you're not really going to get the most value there. And also the damage is just terrible, because you only deal the most damage when opponents are literally directly on top of you. So like if they're on the edge of your range, you're going to be dealing like 1,200 damage, which is just pathetic. So for me, I think Doug's going to be one of the worst brawlers. He definitely needs a few buffs to his probably attack damage or even his HP. So next up on the buff list, we have Mandy. So Mandy for me has never even been close to the meta since her release, and I think for a brand new brawler, you kind of want them to be a little bit interesting, or at least be strong at some point in the game. And Mandy, let's face it, ever since probably like a month after release, she's been pretty much forgotten about. You might see the odd time in knockout or bounty. She's good against really bad players because they're not going to be able to dodge her super, but in competitive play, I can't remember the last time I seen Mandy. Her super is just too risky, so you could buff her in multiple ways. I think maybe you guys might think it's too toxic, but the fact that it takes like 5 shots, I believe, to get her super right now, maybe just make it 1 less hit to get it, just because it's very rare that you hit it anyways at the highest levels. So maybe that could be a nice change. I don't know what else you could really do, because it could get too toxic. You know, for example, if you change the way her main attack charges, making it quicker, it might be a little bit too toxic. So just a one change for now might give her a little bit of love, especially in her niche game modes, which you don't even see her in right now. Okay, so jumping into the next buff I desperately want to see, it is with a Gale. So finally, I'm talking about a buff with Gale, which I'm hoping will be coming pretty soon. I know I used to hate this brawler probably the most when it was meta, but I don't want it to be meta. I just want it to be usable. So I only want to propose a small change to him in his super charge rate, whether that's through the super getting a super charge rate, if you get what I mean, or the main attack getting more of a charge rate, just because it takes so long to cycle his super. He's supposed to be a tank counter, and he doesn't even counter tank, so at least he can push them back a little bit more frequently. You might start to see him a little bit more in the meta, or if you don't want to make that too toxic, maybe just buff his damage a little bit, because again, it doesn't even feel like he does a lot of damage. So next up on the buff list, we have Byron. So you guys probably know for a long while now, I absolutely love Byron, but he's not been in the meta for probably close to a year now. He got absolutely killed when they changed his supercharge rate and also his reload speed rate. And for me, he's just not usable whatsoever right now. Maybe a few instances, but I've still not seen him anywhere. So I'd like to see maybe a few buffs to him. The first one, maybe being with his supercharge rate. I know the reason why he was so broken before, because they only cycled 3 shots, but I would like for him to have a little bit of defensiveness about him. The fact that he can just get overwhelmed so easily. So whether they change it back to 3, but then of course nerf the kind of damage and healing it does, I think that could be a nice kind of switch around, right? So at least he charges super and has some defensive capabilities, but at least it doesn't pack as much of a punch it does right now. That could be a good change, or just simply maybe like buffing his HP, because he is pretty squishy and gets taken down so easily. So I'd love to see those changes. Let me know down in the comment section below who you want to see buffs and nerfs. They're probably coming back from the holiday in about a week's time, so we might be able to see some balance changes soon.